I saw a thread pop up on Reddit a little bit ago, basically talking about talent and the raw talent in a person versus their education and their training. This was in regards to somebody who was told that they basically didn't have a cinematic eye. They didn't have what it took to get the job that they wanted or the promotion that they wanted. And they were wondering, is this just like an impossibility for me? Will it's never happen? Or am I just missing some training and some education to get to that next level to where I would have that cinematic quality that this person was looking for? And it strikes an interesting question, a philosophical question. Are people just born with it, or does everyone have to learn it? And where I fall in the issue, obviously it's somewhere in between. It's always a balance, but I tend to think that you are born with it. And the reason for that is, let me explain, because I'm sure there's people who are watching and are like, no, absolutely not. You need to get education is everything. But I get it. But here, let me say this. I think where you're born with certain DNA, genetics, right, that kind of predispose you to a million different things, right? You are you at the beginning with a certain code that's internal to you, and it's how your brain works, it's how your body functions, it's everything. Just like some people are wired more to be athletes, or there's some people who are wired to be more creative. There's some people who are wired to be more logical and mathematical, and everyone kind of starts at a different spot, right, on this scale, whatever you're measuring. And in this case, if we're measuring like creativity, right, you start on the scale somewhere. Some people start lower, some people start higher. And based on that starting point, your education will, push you higher. I think it'd be very rare for someone to go lower and fall down the scale unless they suffered some kind of brain injury or something like that. I don't think you would ever fall down, but you can certainly go up through training, education, experience. That's a huge one. And you can work your way up that scale. But all things being equal, if you have someone who starts up here and they do the training, education, experience, and someone who starts down here and they do the training, education, experience, and they're moving like this, it'd be very hard for that person down here to catch up. It's the thing that, they teach you in sports, is that some people have a natural gift or ability to do something. That just means if you don't have that, you've got to work a lot harder. You got to put in more time, more energy, more hours to compete to get to that level. And, for some people, it's just impossible. They'll never be fast enough. They'll never be strong enough. That other person will always be better than them. It's not a bad thing. It's just the kind of natural variation and the differences between human beings. And it's good because it gives variety to our world. It means like everyone can be different. It'd be really boring if we were all just really good rocket scientists, but no one could dunk. That would be terrible, right? Who would want to live in that world? But we have variation. And so it's one of those things that some people have a very difficult time being organized or seeing things through a creative lens. I think everyone sees the world a little bit differently. And that's why you'll look at one photographer's work or one videographer's work, one filmmaker, and it's different from someone else's, right? There are some similarities, some rules that are the same between them, but the way people see the world, it's different. And some people, for whatever reason, just don't see it in what we've kind of all agreed on is cinematic, or, agreed upon as like stylistic in terms of a pleasing, artful manner. That person has to make a decision. Okay, do you want to put in the time, put in the energy to train, go through the experience, educate yourself, and try it the best you can to mimic the people who maybe have that gift from the beginning, that innate ability, or they've gotten to that level? Do you want to put in the time, or do you want to go into something else, another field where you maybe are starting off higher on that measuring scale? Maybe you want to go into law, right? And go get your law degree because for whatever reason, you're just really good at being a lawyer. It's possible. So that's the thing. It's deciding when you want to cut your losses at a certain extent, right? Like I played high school football. Okay. I was decent. I was okay, but I was never going to be a pro. I was not going to go even compete at a college level. It just wasn't going to happen for me. So I said, rather than continuing in this endeavor and pushing and pushing and pushing myself to try and compete with the people who are naturally gifted, who are already so far ahead of me, I'm going to go invest in something else, something I'm more predisposed to. And for me, that was the video art photography stuff, which I had always just had a knack for. People said that, oh, your work is really good. And I knew if I invested in that and grew that up, that would be more beneficial for me in the long run. So who's to say whether there's a cap? Like, I don't know if there's a cap where you like reach a certain point and you just can't progress past that. I think that's probably not the case. I think every day you're able to learn and grow and advance yourself, but it takes work, it takes time, it takes energy, and everyone's going to start off at a different point. So you just have to gauge yourself. And if someone's telling you that like you don't have what it takes, don't let that put you down. I mean, how many famous celebrities and just key leaders are out in the world who basically were told at some point or another, you don't have what it takes, and they failed or they weren't given the promotion or given the job. I mean, if anything, that's energy and fuel to do better and to push harder and to like prove that person wrong, right? You know, Michael Jordan, great example of somebody who was cut from his high school or college. I don't know. I'm not that keen on sports, but it's just an example that's in my head. Michael Jordan, you know, and he pushed and he pushed and he pushed and had a natural talent for it and was able to become essentially the best basketball player ever. Well, I'm sure there's some people who would argue with that, but in my mind, Michael Jordan's the best. But he was told not good enough. So if someone tells you that you're not good enough, I think you have to think critically about yourself, actually analyze your skills compared to other people. Like when you look at your work, look at what you do compared to other people, be honest with yourself, be brutally honest. It's really easy to get kind of the rose tinted glasses with your own work and like, oh yeah, I'm good, I can do it. And then you kind of disillusion yourself into thinking that you're better than you are. The flip side of that is don't beat yourself up too much and think that you're a terrible person or you're just suck at what you do, because that's not healthy either. But you have to look at it, okay, from a third person, unbiased, objective point of view. How does my work or what I'm doing compare to what other people are doing in the same space? And then just determine like, okay, well, what are you willing to do to get to their level? What are you going to sacrifice, or what are you going to put in? What kind of work are you going to do to make it to that spot you want to be? Or you just say, you know what? That person's right. I don't have what it takes, and I don't really care to try harder and do better. So I'm going to go do this other thing. That's totally legitimate too, because everyone starts at a different spot, and it's okay to go to a different field or switch, careers based on your own unique skill set. Everyone is unique. Everyone's got their own special gift that, whatever they were born with that makes them, that makes them special, that makes them in that area better than other people. Maybe go to that, or just try really, really hard at what you're doing. Because the thing that's great, I watched an interview with Alex Buono recently, and he's the basically cinematographer, digital head for their digital shorts. Or I don't actually know his current role, but he works with SNL. And he basically said that, if you keep at something long enough, you will succeed, you'll make it. But the hardest part is that working for 5, 10, 15, 20, however many years it is to get to that point. You can succeed, you can make it, but are you willing to put in the time? And a lot of people aren't. So it's got to be a personal thing. You got to analyze yourself, and the best thing you can do is try and take that objective look at yourself and analyze, okay, where am I at and what do I want to do? Because you can, but like I said at the very beginning of this, some things you're just born with, and it will be very hard for you to get the education, the training, and the experience that you need to get to the level where you want to be. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe that's not true. Some people I'm sure would disagree with me. So let me know. I could be wrong. But from everything I've experienced and the people I've talked to and the people I've worked with, some people have a gift, and like you have your exceptional, like top tier people. Then you got everyone else, somewhere along the chart. But figure out where you're at and then decide what you want to do.